You know, you can look at that in a lot of different perspectives. You know, I mean, my favorite book is always the one that I just finished. But if I look back on the books, if I answered from which impacted my life the most, I would really probably say Management of Organizational Behavior, the textbook I wrote with Paul Hersey, because I never thought I could write, and I never even, you know, thought of myself as a teacher and all, because my professors said I couldn't write. And so when Hersey had made me take his course, which in retrospect was a fabulous thing, he was teaching a great leadership course, and he said to me, "You can't audit my course, you know, everybody, you take it for credit, you're welcome." And later, as I knew Paul, he said, people audit courses, they don't do anything. He said, you got to have some skin in the game, then I know you're going to learn. And in that process, I wrote some papers for Paul, and he really came to me because I wanted him to write a textbook. And he had some self-doubts about his own writing ability, and he wanted, he said, quote, a good writer like me to work with him, which is kind of an unbelievable thought. But that book showed me that all the perceptions that people had given me in the past were wrong, which I say to everybody, don't let somebody else stomp on your dreams and your beliefs, because it might not be true. So I would look at that one. The second one that impacted my life the most probably had to be the book I wrote with Norman Vincent Peale, The Power of Ethical Management, just because Norman and Ruth had such an incredible impact on my wife Margie and I and our spiritual journey, because they were just such caring, loving people. And you know, Norman was 86 when I met him, and Ruth was something like 78, and you know, Margie and I are in our 40s, and it was such a mutual admiration society, because they were so amazed that, quote, young people like us would be interested in what we thought. And we were just blown away that two people as accomplished as they would care what we thought. And it was just a really wonderful thing about marriage, about faith, and about everything. And so that was a really powerful one. And I guess another one that I would put up there would be my opportunity to work with Don Shula on a book called Everyone's a Coach, just because he was such an incredible, high integrity, but intense human being. Perfect example of a servant leader who doesn't have to be, you know, two shoes, you know, cutie two shoes or anything. I mean, he was hard-nosed, but everybody knew that he cared, and it wasn't about him. It was really about, you know, achieving excellence. And it's so interesting. He said to me one time, it really impacted me. He said, Ken, if you're going to aim for a target, go for the bullseye. Because if you miss the bullseye, you're still on the target. But if you just aim for the target, you miss the target, you're nowhere. And so he told his players from the beginning, I want to win every single game. Now, is that possible? No. But he won more games than anybody ever in the history of the game, and the only, you know, undefeated season. But I think that, you know, he had this resolve and determination to be the best. But he also was there, you know, for the people. I mean, just give you an interesting example. With this thing with Vic, you know, from Atlanta, I think the ownership was as big a problem in that as anybody. Because how can they sit around and say, well, we didn't know what he was doing? You know, Don Shula hired an old ex-FBI guy to be on his staff, and he told the players, we're going to know where you are and what you're doing. Why? Because we want to interfere with your life? No, we care about you, and we don't want, you know, temptations and things out there to get you off of focus so that you can be the best that you can. I mean, you know, it's a whole different thing, and you know, and it was very straightforward. Everybody knew why he was there, and what it was, because, I care. Everyone, it's like the shepherd. Every sheep is important. And so he also, shared with me, and I think it's important for a servant leader, is respect is much more important than popularity. And I think sometimes I had erred on the popularity because I want to be liked, and that's probably one of my Achilles heels. And Don said, I want to be respected, not necessarily liked, not that I want to be disliked, but if I got to choose between the two. And I think that's what a real servant leader is, because sometimes they have to make a hard intervention. I mean, Jesus was willing to, throw the moneylenders out of the temple and to make hard interventions on the Pharisees and people that thinking was off base. And so, so popularity is not as important as maybe we all think.